everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So as you can probably tell from the title of this video, today I'm going to be talking about my adult tonsillectomy. So I just turned 25 years old and I had strep for 28 days in November. So pretty much from like Halloween up until Thanksgiving, I had terrible strep throat, tonsillitis. I did 3 rounds of antibiotics. I did steroids, everything to try to get rid of it, and nothing worked. So I have had issues with my tonsils pretty much my whole life, and I have tried to convince many doctors to take them out back when I was in school and I had breaks from school and I knew I would be able to take the time off to recover. Back when I was on my mom's insurance, which would have covered a lot more of it. I had tried to convince them several times and they were like, no, you don't want to do that. It's a very, complicated surgery as an adult. I'm like, yes, I'm aware of that, but I also get, strep 3 to 5 times a year. It's severe, it won't go away. But basically this time, when they went and looked at my tonsils, they flipped the script and they were trying to convince me that I needed to have them out immediately. They were so enlarged, it was hard for me to breathe, and they said basically there's pockets in my tonsils, so even if they did get rid of it, as soon as my immune system was compromised from like not getting enough sleep or something like that, I would just get it again, so I would basically have it forever. So they were like, it's time to get them out. I couldn't just up and take 2 weeks off work immediately like they wanted me to, so I had to wait until January after all the holidays, so my team could take time off, and luckily the company I work for has great sick leave, so I was able to take a full 2 weeks off. My situation was a little unique because I had to travel out of state for the surgery. I would definitely recommend having somebody that's able to take care of you at least for the first week, because it's really hard to keep track of your medications and how often you're eating and all of that stuff by yourself. And so I just moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and I don't really know anybody like that here, so I went home to Maryland to have the surgery so that my mom could take care of me. And so I had a couple of kind of unique complications that probably most people don't have if you're not traveling out of state. So I'll kind of go over those in the video and my experience, and a bunch of tips at the end that my doctor didn't really tell me, because a lot of surgeons and ENTs really treat the surgery as something that's super routine, not a big deal, because it is pretty routine for kids and even preteens, but once you get into your 20s, it is a really serious surgery. So I'm kind of right in that mid-range. I'm 25, so I kind of wanted to go over my experience for anyone that might be having this surgery around my age, and I think I have some pretty good tips that I wish I was able to find before I had the surgery. So hopefully if you are thinking about having it, or you have a surgery scheduled, or you have a loved one that's going through it, this will be super helpful. I know I wish this video existed before I had my surgery, so if you are interested in my experience and some tips and tricks, then just keep watching. Okay, and then I did just want to touch on kind of what the complications were with going out of state. So I had actually already scheduled my surgery with a surgeon here in Charleston before my mom had come to visit, and originally I had thought, oh, I'll just have my mom stay with me for a few days here in my apartment and, get me all set, cook me some food and stuff like that, and then, be on her way. But after having her in my apartment for a weekend when she came to visit, I was like, okay, maybe I'll just go home to Maryland where we have like separate bathrooms and like enough space. Plus, like, you basically are in bed for 2 weeks straight, so I wanted to be comfortable and like, be with my family and my pets at home, and it just ended up making a lot more sense for me to go home to have the surgery. But it was kind of complicated because no surgeon is going to schedule your surgery without seeing you first. So I had to fly to Maryland to have my pre-op appointment, and then I had to be there for an extra day to get my blood work done, and that has to be within 30 days of your surgery. Just for like liability purposes, they have to make sure you're not pregnant and all that stuff. So that is something definitely to think about. You have to plan ahead and be able to like travel multiple times. Luckily I was already going to be in town for the holidays, so it kind of worked out that way, but definitely something to think about. And then also the prescriptions that they give you, I'll cover this more later, but they are very like hardcore pain medicines, and it depends on your surgeon and your ENT what exactly they give you, but they are very difficult to get filled, especially if it's an out-of-state prescription. So definitely, like, as soon as they give you the prescription, go and fill it, because it actually took almost 2 weeks for my pharmacy to fill the hydrocodone liquid prescription, because they keep the pills typically on site, but a lot of pharmacies aren't able to keep the liquid on site because they're super addictive. There's a lot of regulations going on right now for those types of medications, so, which is great. I think that they should regulate it, but it makes it difficult when you really need it for a surgery. So I actually almost missed my surgery because I had to pick up my prescription. I went back like 4 or 5 times and it wasn't ready. So I like left late to drive to Maryland because my prescription wasn't ready. So just keep that in mind. Definitely something to think about. And then you also can't really fly with like an open wound in your mouth. So I chose to drive, which is almost like 10 hours, which also isn't the most fun thing to do after surgery, but it was worth it to like be comfortable for those 2 weeks. So definitely up to you, something to think about when you're thinking about where to have it if you don't have family where you live. Another big thing that people don't think about is the cost of the surgery. So they could only really give me a rough estimate, and since I had mine January 6th, I was able to like up my insurance so that it would cover more of the surgery. So I had to pay my full deductible since it was the very beginning of the year and I hadn't paid anything out of pocket yet. So my deductible was like $1,250, and then my insurance covered 80% after that. And then I contribute to my flexible spending account. So basically what happened, and I didn't know they were going to do this, they didn't notify me, they drained my flexible spending account completely, which was kind of frustrating because I use that account for other things. If you don't know what a flexible spending account is, it's basically something that your employer can opt into so that you can contribute a portion of your paycheck each pay period to a flexible spending account so that it's not taxed, and you can use that account for anything healthcare related. So if you are going to see a chiropractor or anything that's not covered by your insurance, any out-of-pocket medical costs, you can use that. They give you a debit card, and it's a nice little tax break because then you can, spend more on your healthcare. And if you spend a lot out of pocket like I do, because I have a spinal injury and have to go to the chiropractor 3 times a week, it's really nice. The only downside is that you have to spend it by December 31st or you lose it. So just make sure you're budgeting very carefully. My United Healthcare has an app where I can, keep track of my balance. But so I have auto drafts for like my chiropractor and things like that, and they completely drained my flexible spending account. And then the only way I knew that was they started sending me checks in the mail, and I'm like, why am I getting all these like huge checks? So they were basically reimbursing me from the money they took from my flexible spending account, but I had still not gotten a bill yet, so I was really confused. I had to call them and nobody could tell me the right answer, but basically they sent me the checks, and then I was supposed to go and pay the hospital, the ENT, the surgeon, and the anesthesiologist individually. But the numbers still didn't add up, and then I had found out later that they charged my anesthesia as if it was out of network, so that they didn't cover any of it. So they were charging me like $1,440 just for anesthesia because they claimed that it was out of network, even though my hospital, my surgeon, and my ENT are all in network. And I had no option or chance to even select an anesthesiologist. They basically came in and, I'll explain that, but, they said, this is your anesthesiologist, and I said, okay. So I had to call and get them to reconsider that, and they ended up taking it down from $1,440 to $286. So big difference. So make sure you stay on top of your claims after any surgery, really. But that's a huge difference. So I got that reimbursement, which was really key. So if you have any questions about costs or anything, I don't want to go into too much detail and bore you, but it did end up being about twice as expensive as they had originally told me it would cost. So definitely look into your insurance, because a lot of it is not covered, just depending on what kind of insurance you have. And I even upped my plan because I knew I was having the surgery this year, and I still had to pay a lot out of pocket or out of my flexible spending account. But yeah, just something to think about. And kind of weigh the pros and cons, because it's not just the recovery and the surgery, it's, the costs associated with it as well. Okay, so I will kind of go over my experience the day of surgery, and then kind of go into the recovery process. So I am absolutely terrified of needles. I have never had blood drawn in my life until my pre-op appointment for this surgery, and I'm 25 years old. I have avoided it like it's my job. So I was most nervous for that. I'm so excited I can finally drink coffee again. But I was really nervous for the IV, so I was crying the whole time. And I was like, is there any way, you can just put it in right before I go to sleep, so I don't have to sit with it in my hand, because that just creeps me out so much. I had a bad experience parasailing a few years ago with blood. I don't want to get into it. You can send me a message if you are curious, but I'm just terrified of needles. So they were like, yeah, no problem, we'll put it in, and you'll pretty much go right to sleep. So I was like, okay, cool. Still crying the whole time, and I had to sign a bunch of papers, and then I went into the surgery room to get prepped. They put you in a gown. They give you compression socks, because I guess when you go under anesthesia, you have to wear compression socks to prevent blood clots. But I had broken my pinky toe a week before I had the surgery, which was another complication, because you can't take pain medicine a week before surgery because it thins your blood. So I am a big fan of ibuprofen and Advil, but I couldn't take anything before the surgery. So not only did that suck, but I couldn't wear a compression sock on that foot, so that kind of took a while for them to figure out what to do with that. And then they went to put the IV in. She was great. The nurse knew I was scared, and she was like, oh, I'm just gonna put some numbing stuff on, and stuck the IV in, so that I wasn't expecting it, which ended up being good. So I'm laying there crying, and my mom's holding my hand, and then they come in and they're like, oh, your surgeon is 2.5 hours behind on surgery schedule, so it's gonna be another couple hours, right after they had put the IV in. And I was like, what? So they were like, okay, we're gonna have you sit in this recliner chair, we're gonna cover it up, you're not gonna feel it. But I was freaking out the whole 3 hours. But luckily my mom was there. She was distracting me and we were talking, and it ended up being good because I got a lot of fluids in my system beforehand. So if that doesn't happen to you, I would just make sure you're drinking water the whole time. The more hydrated you are before the surgery, the better it's gonna go overall. So finally went into surgery. When they put the anesthesia, again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know exactly what they did, and I'm like super scared of needles, so I don't think they wanted to tell me exactly, but you know, when they put the stuff in that made me go to sleep, it really burned like my whole arm, and I was like, ow, and they were like, it's fine, like just go to sleep. So that's the last thing I remember from the surgery. I woke up and they were like, oh, do you want an ice pop? And I was like, so I ate an ice pop, I drank some water. She asked me how much pain I was in on a scale of 1 to 10, and I told her 7 because it really did hurt, especially once I tried to drink water. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna give you some fentanyl. And I was like, oh my God, like that's serious stuff. Like people die from like doing fentanyl. So I was like, okay. And then they, I guess, gave me some oxycodone. I'm not sure exactly what they did, but they wrote it all down and gave it to my mom, which was good that she was there because I was so out of it. I couldn't even tell you which way was up. So then we got in the car, they gave me some ice chips for the ride home and some anti-nausea medicine. Even if you don't normally get nauseous, definitely take the anti-nausea medicine because anesthesia makes you really, really nauseous. So then we went home. By the time we got home, it had been about 2 hours. So my mom gave me some liquid Tylenol. The pain medicine that my surgeon had prescribed me didn't have Tylenol in it. So some of them do, and then you can't like double up, but he gave me liquid oxycodone and Tylenol. So you're supposed to take each every 4 hours. So he recommended to alternate to kind of like take the edge off in between. So that worked really well for me. If you are gonna take Tylenol, make sure it's liquid Tylenol. I didn't even know that existed. It's technically for babies, but they have some good flavors. Cherry is good, grape is good. Don't bother with any of the other flavors. They suck. But yeah, it's like in a little syringe. So definitely get some of that. Some surgeons will allow you to take Advil, but my surgeon said that like a study just came out that increases your risk of bleeding. So he said, just don't take it for the first 2 weeks, like just in case. Because they did say that typically once your scabs fall off around day 8, it's like the worst pain. There's a risk that you could like bleed profusely and have to go to the hospital and get it cauterized. So I was like, I don't want that to happen. Like, I'll just take whatever pain medicine you say is okay. And then I went home. I was super tired because I hadn't slept the night before because I was scared. So I took a little nap, and then woke up, took some more pain medicine. I tried to eat a couple different things and I just couldn't do it. So then I went back to sleep and woke up every few hours and just took more pain medicine. Took the stool softeners. Those are really important. Make sure that you start taking those the first day, like maybe even the day before, because hardcore pain medicine really messes with your body. And if you've never taken it before, just trust me. And if you have taken it before, you know what I'm talking about. So definitely start taking those as soon as possible. I couldn't find any that were liquid, but my boss is so sweet and got me a pill crusher, so I crushed it up and put it in some applesauce, which ended up being the only thing I ate that day. So that was day 1. Okay, so then on day 2, I started the day with a smoothie with bananas, blueberries, prunes, and like yogurt. So probiotics were really great, prunes are great for the same reason, stool softeners are great, and then banana and blueberry were really the only fruits I could have that didn't actually burn my throat, because most fruits are very acidic. So I had that for breakfast with some protein powder too. and I finally felt like a little bit better because I really hadn't eaten anything before that. So I definitely recommend smoothies. And then I pretty much just like snoozed on and off. The first couple of days, like, you won't be able to sleep through the night. And really, even if you can, I would recommend waking up every 2 hours to take your pain medicine. Even if you don't feel that much pain, like, you don't want it to catch up to you. So just keep taking your pain medicine consistently every 2 hours, or, you know, however the dosage is for your particular medicine. Make sure to set an alarm, don't forget, you know, have whoever's taking care of you remind you, because there were a couple times where I just like slept through my alarm and I woke up in just horrible pain, and then you can't go back to sleep even, you know, if you want to. So find some good shows on Netflix, get recommendations from your friends, because you're going to be watching a lot of Netflix. I got addicted to TikTok, so I would pretty much just watch TikToks 24/7 for the first few days. And then for dinner, I was actually able to eat some ramen. Ramen is your best friend. Like, that was pretty much the only thing I could eat for like a week. And like, I love ramen, so like, I wasn't mad about it. I thought I was gonna get tired of it, but like, honestly, I went through like a whole Costco pack, and when I got back to Charleston, I like bought more because I just love it so much. So that was good for me. But if you don't like ramen, maybe like miso soup or like something else that is like mostly liquid. But with ramen, you have to like break up the noodles super, super small. So like, you don't want to be like slurping them or having to chew them, just like swallow them. And then I had some more applesauce for dinner. A lot of my friends got me applesauce because I guess that's like the typical thing to get for tonsillectomy, besides ice cream, which is actually a bad thing. I'll touch on that later. But go with regular applesauce and like organic if you can, because if there's too many like sugars, or like one of them was like a strawberry flavor and it was too acidic and that burned. Day 2, I also had to start taking steroids. Not every surgeon is going to give you steroids, but mine did. He said it, you know, usually really helps his patients. And they taste terrible. Like, I've never tasted something so nasty in my life. I tried, he told me to dissolve them under my tongue, so I tried that. Ugh, like, don't even try that. You already have a suppressed appetite, so you don't want to be throwing up. Oh my god, that would be terrible. I know a lot of people that do throw up because they get nauseous. Don't even try to dissolve them under your tongue. I tried using a pill crusher and putting them in applesauce. Terrible. And then I tried chasing with regular applesauce. Terrible. They're so small, like, I just swallowed them eventually, because I was supposed to take like 4 the first day, or like 6, and then 4, and then 2. So it was a lot of pills, but they're so tiny, like, you really can just swallow them. It took a couple tries because there was so many scabs in the back. Day 2 is the first day I actually looked, and it's just basically just like white scabs, like all around. So it looks kind of crazy. And then you get really swollen here. So I would definitely recommend getting one of those ice packs that they use for wisdom teeth. I asked my mom to try to find one, and she found one that's like for your lower back, so it was like huge, but it actually ended up being great. It had a little strap, because you don't want to be holding an ice pack the whole time, but the ice pack really helps with the swelling. And then if you put the ice pack on and then like chew ice chips, it's like icing it from the inside and the outside, and then pain medicine. That's like the perfect recipe. So that's my day 2 experience. Okay, so days 1 and 2 were like not that bad, really. I was like, wow, like, if it's gonna be like this for 2 weeks, like, not bad. I get to watch TV and hang out with my mom and you know, my dog, my cat, like, not bad. Day 3 and 4 were terrible. And that's the frustrating thing about this whole recovery process, is like, it's so up and down. Like, just when you have hope, like, oh, like, it's not gonna be that bad, it gets bad. So like, don't underestimate it. Like, if you're feeling good, eat as much as you possibly can. Do as much, well, try to rest even if you feel good, but like, it gets worse, unfortunately. So day 3 and 4 were really bad pain. Like I couldn't talk, I couldn't even really keep my eyes open at certain points. I tried to eat ramen, but it was hard. My mom tried to make me cauliflower soup, and I tried to eat it, and that was really hard. I just didn't want to eat or drink anything. But even when you feel like that, drink water. Drink as much water as you possibly can, and just like keep it, because like as soon as it gets dry, that's when it gets really bad. And if your scabs fall off too early, because they're dry and kind of flake off, like you know when you get a scab on your arm, after you take a shower, it's all like wet. Like that's what you want your scabs to be like. And if they get too dry, they'll flake off, and that's when like you're a risk for like bleeding out, having to go back to the hospital and have them cauterize it, which is just horrible. So just keep it wet, and humidifiers definitely help with that. But I would wake up every few hours, drink water, take medicine. I kept an ice pack on the entire day for 3 and 4. So I would definitely recommend doing that because the pain was still terrible. I would say that those were the worst days, but it actually gets worse. Stay tuned. Okay, so after a brutal day 3 and 4, by day 5 and 6, I was so hungry and so bored. I like could not spend another moment in a recliner chair. So I had a couple friends visit, and I definitely recommend that. Like even if you're not feeling up to leaving the house, like have someone come visit you, like get a change of scenery, even if you just like, you know, sit on a different couch than you were sitting on before, like do something different. I was starving, so I actually had my friend take me out to get real ramen, not the kind from a pack. But be very careful because ramen typically is spicy, and you don't want to do anything spicy, acidic, or like crunchy. Just avoid all those foods. We got ramen and bubble tea, and bubble tea was amazing. Not the kind with like the tapioca balls. I don't really even like that kind, but the kind with the jellies, that is like amazing. I like got a huge one and finished the whole thing, and then ordered another one, which is nice because I hadn't really been able to drink anything other than water up until then. I usually get a mango green tea with mango jelly, and that was amazing, perfect, 10 out of 10, would recommend bubble tea. So finally, day 5 and 6, I was feeling a little bit better, but because I was like, you know, actually eating real food and stuff, by the nighttime, the pain was so bad. So don't do too much, but you're gonna start getting a little restless and like starving for real food. So I started trying to entertain myself and eat normal food. Okay, so day 7 and 8, I was most nervous for because my surgeon said that's the day your scabs are supposed to fall off, which means your risk of bleeding and pain because your new skin is exposed. And they had only given me 7 days of pain medicine. So I was like, well, if day 8 is the worst, like, what am I supposed to do on day 8? I don't have any more pain medicine. And he was like, oh, well, you can come back and we'll give you more. The insurance companies won't fill a prescription for more than 7 days because it is highly addictive, so totally get that. But the office was an hour away from where I live. So again, good thing that I had my mom there, so she drove me, but I went with her because you can't pick up narcotics for somebody else. So we went, and that was rough. Like sitting through an hour car ride there and an hour car ride back, I was like so nauseous, not feeling well at all. But I was glad that I had the pain medicine because day 8 was super painful, but my scabs did not fall off. I still have scabs, and it's been like exactly a month, like maybe a little bit more, and I still have scabs. So, you know, my surgeon said there's nothing to worry about. I mean, that just means it'll be extra healed by the time they do fall off, but luckily I didn't have any like bleeding risks, and I think that's because I did a really good job of using the humidifiers and waking up every few hours to drink water, so they never got dry. And then, so day 7 and 8, I was still on pain medicine. By day 9 and 10, I really tried to get off of the narcotics. So, depending on your healing process, you might be able to just do the 7 days and then start taking Tylenol or Advil, depending on what your doctor recommends. Because once you stop with the narcotics, your life goes a little bit back to normal. Like it affects your body a lot. So I started feeling better on 9 and 10. But even though the pain got better, I could not stop yawning. And it hurt so bad. I don't know what it was, but every like 5 minutes I would yawn, and it is the worst pain. It still hurts to yawn, honestly. So just avoid it. Like coughing is fine, sneezing kind of hurts, but yawning is by far the worst. And if you try to like swallow your yawn, it's even worse. So just try not to be tired, try not to see anybody yawn. And then I also got a really weird pain like under my tongue. Like my throat still hurt when I was eating, but it didn't hurt like all the time. But if I got anything under my tongue, it was this like horrible pain. So I actually started eating like some solid foods, but I just could not get it under my tongue, or it was like this terrible pain. So I don't know if that's just me. A lot of people said that they got ear pain. I never got ear pain, and I think that's because I like sat up in a recliner chair. I didn't really lay like horizontally until like day 10. Because my mom has like really comfy lazy boys. So I think that was good, like sitting upright, so the swelling, it doesn't get too bad. Because I think like when you lay down, again, I'm not a doctor, but like the swelling kind of goes into your ears. So I didn't get that, but I did get pain under my tongue. Okay, so after day 10, things did start to get a little bit better each day. And I definitely wouldn't have wanted to like go back to work those days, but since I was off the narcotics, I was able to like drive and like run a couple of errands, you know, while I was home. One of my best friends just got engaged, so we went wedding dress shopping, which was really sweet. I'm glad I got to like participate in that. So I would say like days 11, 12, 13, and 14, it got just a little bit better each day. I started eating solid food. By the time I drove back to Charleston on day 14, I had Chipotle and pizza and all the things. So get ready to lose weight. I only lost like 7 pounds. I know people that lost like 27 pounds, but also gain it all back, because the whole 2 weeks, all you're thinking about is like, oh, I can't wait to eat Chipotle and pizza and all the things that you can't eat. So it's exciting. I mean, maybe you'll keep it off. That'd be nice, but I definitely did not. So the way back to Charleston, I drove 10 hours, and you know, it sucked, but only a little bit more than it normally sucks to drive that far. So I would say it's been a month now, and I'm pretty much completely healed, except I do still have some scabs, not as much pain, but I did notice like I had something with vinegar the other day, and that kind of burned, and now when I swallow, I feel like everything comes out my nose. I've never heard anybody else say that, and maybe I just like need to learn how to swallow without 2 giant tonsils in the back of my throat, but it is kind of annoying. So I hope that goes away. But other than that, I feel like 2 weeks for recovery as a 25-year-old is pretty solid. I wouldn't have wanted to go back to work any sooner than that, but I don't think I would have needed, you know, any extra time unless like I did have to go back to the hospital and get it cauterized or something, which is always a possibility. Okay, so now for my helpful tips for anyone having this surgery. These are the things that I really wish somebody told me beforehand. It would make things a lot easier, because I feel like everybody that finds out you're having a tonsillectomy is like, oh, good for you. You get to watch TV and eat ice cream all day. No, Like, it sucks, number one, and two, you actually can't have ice cream. You can't have any dairy, and nobody told me this, but it's true. So dairy actually makes your mucus really thick, which is like so nasty, but it makes it like impossible to swallow. You want like to be hydrated, and like you want your mucus to be thin so you can swallow easily. So you want to avoid anything with dairy in it, including ice cream. Like even mac and cheese and mashed potatoes aren't really the best, also because they're very thick and hard to swallow. So all those foods I stocked up on, skip it. Like, stick with ramen, miso, anything you can swallow really easily and like keeps you hydrated, because you don't want that feeling in your mouth of like, you know what I'm saying, that dairy gives you. Love dairy, could never give it up permanently, but for 2 weeks. And even I read like a couple days before, even a week before, try to avoid dairy, because you're just gonna be like more hydrated and like prepped for the surgery if you do. And then also, if you're not gonna have like dairy ice cream, you might think, oh, well, I'll just have gelato. So I stocked up on like, or not gelato, but like Italian ice, like sorbet. I love like mango sorbet and raspberry sorbet. Most fruits are super acidic, and I didn't think about that, but everything burned. And I got those like real fruit pops that have like real strawberries and oranges in them. No. So basically nothing is safe except for those super cheap like cherry, grape, and orange popsicles that you get from like Costco. As much as I hate having those, and I was trying to be healthy and have like the real fruit ones, you just gotta do it. It's the only thing that doesn't burn, and it keeps the swelling down because it's kind of like icing it from the inside. So definitely pick up some of those. You definitely want to avoid anything spicy or crunchy. And I would recommend getting at least 2 humidifiers. Luckily, like everybody I know had one, so I had one in like every room, but you want to be next to a humidifier at all times. I think that's part of the reason I had like a pretty smooth experience, because if you can't drink water every second, at least the humidifier is keeping everything moist, even though I hate that word. That's super, super important, and you don't want to be like moving your humidifier from your living room to your bedroom, to the kitchen. So it's nice to have one in every room. Okay, so that's about all of the information and tips that I have for you guys. I definitely wish this video existed before I had my surgery. It would have definitely helped the process along. It's always good to hear from somebody that's about your age to compare it to, because I really had no idea what to expect. I mean, the 14-year-olds were saying, oh, you'll be fine, and the 30-year-olds were saying, you're gonna die. So I was like, I don't know. So hopefully this is helpful for anyone that's, you know, in between like me. And everyone's different. Every surgery is different. There are definitely complications that could happen. I luckily had a really great experience with my surgeon. He's in the like Baltimore, DC area. So if you need a recommendation, let me know. I think he was wonderful. I'm really happy with the whole, you know, process. And if you're on the fence about doing it, definitely, you know, consider all the things that I talked about in this video. And, you know, if you're sure that you want to have the surgery, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You can always get a second opinion. I know a lot of doctors are hesitant to do it when you get up into your 20s and 30s, but, you know, I know people that tried to have it for so long, couldn't, and then they had to have it when they were like 40, and then it's so much harder. So, I mean, the younger you are, the easier it's gonna be. And it, you know, it is a very serious thing. Every time that you get sick, there's tons of risks associated with it. So take all these things into consideration. If you have any other questions, or you're nervous and you want someone to talk to, just let me know. I'm here to help. Now that I am post-op, recovered, feeling better, I'm hoping to get some more videos up here for you guys. So let me know what you would like to see in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.